Ahoy, mateys. Today, I'd like to review with you my thoughts on how to back your boat in to a slip. Now, when I first started this, man, was I horrible. I mean, I had a power boat before with twin engines, so, you know, that was easy to turn on a dime. And the wheels on it were like this, compared to the prop that's on this is about like, you know, maybe a little bit bigger than this. It took me a lot of practice to be able to do this. Now, I've gotten pretty good. I mean, I still have my moments of, what the heck happened? But I think I've come a long way. And I'm going to show you here and go over some of the things that I hope will be helpful for you. Now, one of the things I like to back in for a couple of reasons. One, it's easier to get on and off the boat because unless you have full length finger piers or you're on a T-head, it's just easier to get on and off. The other thing is, it's really a lot easier to pull out and leave. Trying to back up, get the boat turned, just going forward out of the slip, you just start going and it's just me. I think it's easier. But let's go over a couple of things to consider here. And I know each boat's going to operate a little bit differently, and you know, your RPMs and all of that stuff. We're not going to get real scientific here because I'm just not a scientific person. This is just what's worked for me. But I know a couple of things to consider. First of all, what kind of keel do you have? Now, I have a fin keel, and it backs up pretty darn well. And I know people who have full keels, it's a little bit more difficult or challenging, especially with the current, because there's more water pushing on things. Another thing is, what kind of rudder do you have? Now, I have a spade rudder. It's fairly large. It's not super large, but it's fairly large. And I think the larger the rudder and the deeper it goes, it's probably easier to back in. And then, of course, you've got to take in the account of the wind and the currents. In some marinas, the current is really swift. Others, it's pretty passive once you get inside the docking area. Windage can be an issue, but it can also be helpful. Now, when you get ready to come in to dock, make sure you're set up and ready. Now, I solo, so I've got to make sure I'm really ready to go. Fenders are out, fending pole is at hand, whether it's to push off or to grab and pull in. Did I have a couple of lines ready to go? That's important to be set up before you start to come in. And I hear a lot of talk about prop wash. And that's one of the reasons that I like to start backing up way out there so that I have water flowing over the rudder and have steerage way. Now, what I did and what I recommend is on a calm day, go out, keep the rudder straight, right down the line, put it in reverse. Well, first of all, slow down almost to a stop, then put it in reverse and see how the prop walk pushes the stern of your boat. And try it at different RPMs, but keep the rudder straight. Don't start trying to maneuver at this point. You just want to figure out what your prop walk is doing. Now, if you're coming into a marina and the fairway is very narrow and you're coming in forward and then you want to prop walk in, knowing which way that prop walk is going to turn you makes a big difference. You know, if it's going to turn you to starboard, well, you want to pass your slip let the prop walk push you in. Vice versa on the port. Most of them I think are going to be starboard though. Maybe it's the opposite. I don't know. I don't worry about prop walk because when I come in, I'm backing in and I'm going pretty quick at it. I tried the prop walk thing numerous times, and the issue I found with it is that the wind and the current start pushing you and moving you around in ways you really don't want until that prop walk starts to take effect. It's not going to be instant, you know. Sometimes you need to give it a little more throttle for that. And that's another thing. I see people who are afraid to give it a little more throttle. And don't gun it all the way up, but don't hesitate, especially if there's a lot of wind and current. Now, the other thing, when you put it in reverse, you're going to feel it a lot better and quicker with a tiller than you will with a wheel. So sometimes if you have a wheel, you need to be a little more patient. I mean, on my boat where I have the tiller, man, I feel it instantly. I know what's happening with the water flow over the rudder and the prop walk almost immediately. With a wheel, it could take a little more time because you've got the cables and the cams and all of that. It's not the same touch. So just be aware of that. Now, talking about tillers, I had a heck of a time figuring out which way I got to turn or move the tiller. And when I was in Rock Hall, this guy, Art Willis, he owned the Sailing Emporium for a number of years, and now he's doing boat sales. He taught me a very important lesson, and I want to give credit where credit is due because, man, I just couldn't figure this out. He said, Dom, very simple. You think of the tiller and the rudder as an arrow. The tiller is the shaft and the rudder is the arrow. So you point, and this is going in reverse, you point the arrow in the direction you want to head. Just makes sense. If I want to go to starboard, I got to push this way, port this way. And once you get water moving over the rudder, and this is important for tiller or wheel, once you get water moving over it, prop walk has virtually no effect at all. You're going to have better steerage once you get moving in reverse and get that water flowing over the rudder. And this is one of the reasons why a longer rudder or a bigger rudder, you're going to have more maneuverability because there's more water flowing over that. So now we're getting ready to come in to the marina and dock. And I'm out there, or you're wherever you are there. And what I do is I start up. Now at this particular marina, the way the entrance is, I've got to go past and then come back. Anyway, get the boat slowed down, put it in reverse, keep the rudder straight. Now the prop wash is going to take effect at first. But here, like here, you can see I oversteered. Now I did this on purpose, but just to give you to show you. You see here I've got the tiller hard over. Well, nothing is happening. Once I straightened that out and I started moving in reverse, now I had steerage because I had water coming over the rudder sufficiently to have control. One of the things you've got to be concerned about or be aware of is that what's the current doing and the wind doing. Now, in this video here, I'm doing almost 2.5 knots in reverse coming up this way because I'm going with the current. It's a lot easier to dock and you have more maneuverability if you're going against the current because you got that water flow going over the rudder. Here, I've got to get up some speed so that I have enough water flow to keep control of the boat. The other important thing is, every so often, look forward. See what the bow is doing. Is the wind pushing you up? You know, you look in the stern and you say, gee, I look like I'm doing pretty good. You look at the bow, instead of going down like this, you may be going down like this. That's not good. So keep an eye on the bow. Every so often, look forward. I kind of stand mostly to the stern, looking to the stern, because in this 30-foot boat, I can get a pretty good feel, and I've been doing it for 9 years now, as to what the bow's doing, but I still got to keep an eye on it. So now I'm getting close to where I'm going to turn. And I'll slow down a little bit. Not too much, because you don't want the boat to stop or you're going to lose steerage. So I'll reduce the RPMs a little to a point where I might even put it in neutral and let the boat just continue. But if I see I'm slowing down too much, I'll put it back in gear, because I don't want the boat to slow down to a point where I don't have steerage. So I'm coming in, and you can see here I'm backing up, coming in. When I get close to the slip, I don't stop. I do put it in neutral, and I just let that momentum push me and turn and steer into the slip. Now here at this marina, I've got it pretty easy because there's a finger pier that's about halfway up on one side, and on the other side there's another piling that's halfway between the front one and the dock. So once I get in to that point, I know I'm not going to hit anybody. But I don't want the current, like in this one, the current, if I would have just stopped, the current would have pushed me right out, which leads me to another point. When you get into your slip, even when you think everything is secure, don't just shut your engine off. Keep the engine running. You never know when you might need a little bit of power. And turning the engine off, that's another topic altogether, how to handle your diesel engine. But when I come in, I have my lines ready so that I can toss one over the cleat, get myself tight. Then I've got time to go to the bow, get the bow lines, get another couple of lines ready to go. And that's another thing. If you've got crew with you or helpers, don't let people jump off the boat onto the dock or onto the pier. That's just dangerous. They could trip, they could slip. There's no reason for somebody to jump off the boat. When I have crew on board, I don't let anybody do that. No one gets off the boat until I have at least 2 lines secured from the boat to the pier or to a piling. It's just too dangerous, guys. And so that's really all there is to it. And you can watch all the videos you want, but you're not going to get better unless you get out and practice. And practice during calm days so you can do it when the weather gets a little bit inclement. So just to recap, to back your boat in, get steerage over, get water running, moving over the rudder. Then the prop walk won't take as much. Keep control of the boat. Oh, yeah. Keep a tight hand on the rudder or the wheel, because if you have to put it in gear, that prop will put a lot of pressure on the rudder and can move it all over the place with a wheel or with a tiller. So keep a tight hand on that. All right, so now you've got steerage, you're looking forward, you got momentum, you know what the wind is doing, you know what the current is doing, how it's moving you. Come right in, get it in neutral, get a line on the pier or piling as quick as possible, get the second one on, and you're home free and ready to sit down, have a drink, and relax. So until next time, guys, happy and safe boating to you, your family, and friends.